Welcome to Ararat Healthcare and Charcos Learning Centre, your one-stop solution for IELTS, OET, CBT and OSCE training, as well as recruitment to achieve your dream to be a registered nurse in the UK. To enhance your chances of passing your OSCE on the first attempt, please visit our website on www.charcoslearningcentre.com to register and book our unique OSCE portal consisting of videos, reading material and quizzes. This registration not only gives you access to the portal, you will also receive 5 complimentary online classroom-style sessions and a mock OSCE test. So don't delay, you're achieving your dreams any longer and sign up now.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Seema Balyan. I'm the director of Ararat Healthcare and Charcos Learning Centre. Welcome to my lecture series on NMC OSCE. Now in this series, I will be covering up the topics related to assessment, planning, implementation, evaluation, some of the new scenarios which have been added such as the NG tube, pressure ulcer assessment, and VIP and the intravenous flush, and also we are going to take you through the fluid balance. The aim of this series is to understand in depth that the logic behind all of the things, why we are doing, how are we doing these things, what precautions we have to take while we are doing assessment and the rest of the stations, and also the top tips. So I hope that you are going to gain out of it as much as I'm trying to put in my efforts. There are 7 episodes to this series which are going to be covering up various topics. Please do let me know if there is anything that you would like us to discuss about in future as well. And it would be great if you can subscribe on our channel and press the bell icon to get the regular updates. So I hope you will enjoy it, and thank you very much again for watching this series.
So yesterday I had shared with you a couple of fluid balance charts, and I had also shared some, let me just see what all other things. So I had shared a blank document for the care plan, yeah, and also shared some fluid balance. So today's main aim is that we are going to do the evaluation, and we are going to do the fluid balance as well. Yeah. Also, I had shared some medication list with you guys. So that had to just make things a little bit easier for you, so that you can at one place, you can just read all those things. I think a majority of the medication are there in that one, but if there is something missing, then we can surely add to it. So that shouldn't be an issue. Okay. So let's go here. Let me just see. Okay. So let us start then with today's session. So as you know that we are going to be doing evaluation today. So evaluation, who is going to tell me what do you understand by evaluation? Or do you know till now that, or whether you have had any chance to understand what evaluation is, or what exactly do we mean by evaluation, and what are we expected to do in that? Anju, do you want to tell me that what do you understand by evaluation? What are you expecting? What's going to happen?
Okay, in the evaluation, we will evaluate, we will write a transfer or referral letter. Okay, so for that, we will go by step. Okay, first one, the care needed, and also what are the problems identified, and according to what care we planned, and then what are the things to whom we are referring, they want to do, and what are the teaching topics we have to give to them. Like that, by step we will evaluate everything that we already given, and also what we have to be given. Like that, everything we have to write in the evaluation. At last, we have to print our name and sign and document also the evaluation.
Yeah, so basically it is that we know that we have now gone through that journey, that we have done the assessment of the patient, we have done the care planning for the patient, we have asked the patient that they can the implementation of the patient, where we have given the medicine to the patient. So now the next journey of the patient is that we have reached that stage when the patient is going to be discharged, or like we are going to that place where we are going to be deciding that whether the patient has to be discharged home, or if the patient is already at home, then whether we are going to be doing the referral letter for the patients, like whether the patient needs to be referred to some other place. And so that is basically, now we have reached that journey, that when we are going through that. So in evaluation, as the name, as you have aptly said, that we are going to either write a transfer of care letter, or we are going to be writing a referral letter. So what do you think that are going to be the things which we would be expected to know? And how do you think that we are going to be making it? Bonnie, can you tell me this thing?
First of all, we need to let them know that why the patient is admitted, what's the reason, then what are the investigation we have done, then what are the treatments we have provided to the patient, then what we are expecting, how he will be, or he or she will be, depending, how their daily lifestyle, or how the management will, if it is a care home, what they need to do it for the better lifestyle, how they can support, or what are the treatment he should be needed later on in his life, or if there is any appointments, we need to mention that one as well.
Absolutely. So like, it is a good kind of a summary that you have given. And so basically I'm sure that all of you at some stage of your career, all of you would have written a discharge summary or a transfer of care letter. You would have done it. So it is not something that I'm going to be teaching you anything special or anything new. But in how you have summarized, Bonnie, that is very good, because actually what we are doing is that we are transferring the care to either to some other person. Now, when we are transferring the care to some other person, it is just like that you are giving a handover to that person. And in order to give a handover, we need to go into the detail of that, that what has happened to the patient, or why was the patient in your care? When did they come in your care? What were the problems that they had when you saw them? What did you do to make them feel better? And what is the patient's current stage? And then you have to tell that what are your recommendations now, that what do you actually recommend, that what should be done. Yeah, so these are just the simple sort of thing. So if you actually look at the care plan template, it is made just like that. Yeah, so let me just share that one, and I can show you. So, and then we can go as per the template. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we see the template, it is exactly how how you will be giving a handover to anyone. And I think that if you think of a transfer of care letter like a handover, it will become so much easier for you to understand that what are the tenses that you have to write in that. Because this is one of the problem which everyone has, that do I have to write this particular thing in past tense or present tense? Or like, what do I have to write in that, or what do I have to think, or how do I have to think? But if you consider that you take it like that, actually you are just doing a handover, then you will know that whether this thing is in past tense, or this is in the future tense, or it is in the present tense that you are going to be writing. Yeah. So majority of the time, the transfer of letter that you are writing, it is going to be someone who is being transferred from the hospital. Yeah, so either it is going to be someone is being discharged from the hospital and they are being sent home, or they are being sent to a nursing home, because you are transferring the care to the nursing home. Most of the time, the referral letters that you write, they are more with the community setting, because the patient has already been discharged. They are already at their home, yeah, or they are in the care home. Now what you are doing is that you are doing a long-term planning of their care, and that is why you need to involve someone else and refer them to someone else to make sure that their care is taken. For example, like if there is a must scenario that you are doing, so for must, you are going to refer the patient to a dietitian. Yeah, if it is a PHQ-9 that you are doing, you are going to refer the patient to for counseling or a psychologist. Yeah, so these are sometime it is also possible that maybe the patient has had like a hip replacement, or they've had like a carpal tunnel surgery, and those which are the in-hospital patient. But even those patients, you can do a referral letter for them as well, because you might want to refer them for physiotherapy. Okay, it is possible that there is a patient who is being discharged after having a diabetic ketoacidosis, and you might have to refer them to a specialist nurse or diabetologist, or you have to refer them for a diabetic clinic. Yeah, so there are quite a few things that how you can write a referral letter, and what is the transfer of care or a discharge letter. So if you think about it from your history itself, or from your assessment itself, you should get a fair idea that whether you will be writing a transfer of care letter or whether you will be writing a referral letter. Yeah, there is not much of a difference in both of them, because majority of the things you are going to be writing the same, but there might be just some suggestions and things that you are going to do, because in a referral letter you are asking or that for someone like a physiotherapist to do certain things to help with the patient. So you are asking that person that you are referring to. And for the discharge, it is basically you are discussing with the patient that what they should be doing, or you are advising the patient about those things. Okay, so if we take this section by section, so you can see that the first thing that you are going to be writing in that is the patient detail. Yeah, so in patient details, it is fairly simple. Yeah, one more thing before we start this one, that when you reach this stage, you will be provided with your the assessment that you had done. You will be given your paperwork of your care plan that you wrote, and you will be given the implementation chart as well, which you did. So you will have all of your paperwork, because you will need to refer from all of the paperwork, and then you are going to be writing it. Yeah. Same thing happens in the hospital as well. When you are writing a discharge letter, you sit with the patient's notes, isn't it? To see that what has happened to the patient and what all are the important things that you need to write down over there. Okay. So the first section is that you are going to be writing the patient's detail. So that is fairly straightforward. You can just write the patient's name, date of birth, and their address, their GP's name. So it is fairly simple. Then you have to
NHS number.
NHS number, yeah. Then the next section is that you need to clearly describe reasons for initial admission and subsequent diagnosis. Again, that is also fairly simple, because you will get this information from your history when the patient was admitted. So your assessment history is going to provide you this thing. For example, if you are taking Raj, we know that Raj has been suffering with this carpal tunnel syndrome, and so he was admitted for a planned surgery to have a carpal tunnel surgery done, yeah, or a repair done. So that is basically the initial reason for your admission is that he came in for the planned surgery, and his diagnosis is carpal tunnel syndrome, and for that he was being operated. Date of admission. Now, date of admission, this is something that you have to be careful about, that if you are writing a transfer of care letter from the hospital, yeah, then you are going to be writing the date of admission to the hospital. Okay, so for example, if Raj was admitted yesterday for the carpal tunnel syndrome, yeah, and this is the transfer of care letter you are writing today, yeah, even though for exam purposes you have just seen or done the assessment of Raj just about an hour ago. So, but that does not matter. You are showing that you are moving in your journey. Yeah. So now you are saying that, okay, it is today and patient had the surgery yesterday. So if the patient has the surgery yesterday, you are going to write as the date of admission as yesterday, not today. Okay, so don't get confused that I did the assessment just today, so how can I write yesterday's date? Remember that you have moved on in your journey, and in your scenario, they would have given you this details that it is today and patient had the surgery yesterday. Okay, so if it is from the hospital, then you are going to write the date of admission to the hospital. But if you are writing a referral letter, yeah, now the referral letter, please see where the patient is at the moment. Okay, because it is possible that you get the patient who is all in the care home. Yeah, so in the care home history that when you would have read, like say for example, if we take Brenda's or someone Henry's history, that Henry was discharged from the hospital after having a diabetic ketoacidosis, and now he's in a nursing home. So you did the assessment when the patient was in the nursing home. Okay, so patient is not in the hospital. So you are not going to take the date of admission, the hospital date of admission. Please don't take that as hospital as date of admission. Because from the hospital, already a discharge letter have been written. So that chapter has finished. That was only to tell you that why he was admitted in the nursing home. Okay, but this date, now you are going to write the date of admission becomes the date that he was admitted in the nursing home. Okay, so if he was admitted in the nursing home 3 days ago, you are going to write that date. He might have been admitted to the hospital maybe 10 days ago, and then he was in the hospital for 7 days, and then he was transferred 3 days ago in the nursing home. But now you are writing the date of admission in the nursing home, not the hospital. Did you understand that? Yeah, so don't confuse in this one. Okay, so again, this is simple. You are going to write the date of admission. Then in the next section, it says identify the main nursing needs addressed during the patient's stay. Now, these are the problems that you had written in your care plan, because those were the problems that patient had, and those were the things that you addressed, that you did the care planning for those things and you looked after those things. Okay, so you can, in this section, you can just copy what you wrote in your the problems which you wrote in your care plan. So 2 problems anyway you can write in this one, but then if you want to add a couple of other problems, you can do that as well, because those 2 problems were the problems which you felt after the assessment, initial assessment. But then patient was there for 3-4 more days, so they might have been, you can think of that, okay, you wrote problem, like say again we are going back to Raj, that you wrote pain and anxiety, maybe 2 problems. But then you know that for pain you have been giving Raj these cocodamols and painkillers and all those things. So you can say that eventually Raj will have constipation as a problem as well. So you can keep that. You can also have, because it was a hand surgery that he had, that he is having a problem with the activities of daily living. He's having the issues with using his hand. Yeah, so you can and carry out his day-to-day activities. So you can write all these things as well, which you can think of that what might be the other problems. So in this one, you can write 2 problems the same as what you have written as a care plan, and you can have 1 or 2 additional problems that you can write. Everyone understood that? Yeah. Okay. So any confusion in this section? Okay, so then we go on to the next section. Now in the next section, it is asking, outline the nursing care provided to meet the identified need. Now this is basically, you are going to be writing all those things which you did, yeah, which you had already written in your care plan, that these are the things that you are going to be doing. So for example, that you explained to the patient and you took consent, you monitored his vital signs, you monitored his mood, you made assessment of his pain score, you gave him comfortable position, you gave him all his medications, you made sure that he was educated with regards to exercise and maintaining a comfortable position. You also educated him to use the call bell when necessary. So all these things that you have already put in your care plan, you are going to be writing it over here. But you are going to write them in past tense, because these are the things, remember, that you have already done. Yeah, these were the things that you have already done, and these are the things which you did for the patient. Okay, so this section is going to go in the past tense. You are going to say that patient was the patient's present condition was discussed, and interventions were discussed, and his consent was gained. Yeah, patient's vitals were monitored every 4 to 6 hourly, or like whichever the post-operative plan that you have written. So you are going to write that one. And the patient's assessment for the patient's or Raj's score was done. So you are going to write everything in past tense. Agu, you want to ask something? Please go ahead. Okay, have everyone understood this one? Huh? That makes sense that it is going to be in the past tense, because these are the things which you have already done. Okay. Okay. So we'll just carry on. So Agu, you can as and when you are able to ask, please do let me know if you want to ask something. Fine. So then we move on to the next section, which is the next page that we go. Okay, so in the next page, you will see that it is the outline patient's current ability to self-care based on the person's care plan. Yeah. Now, this is something that is going to go in the present tense. As you can see that it is asking about the patient's current ability. Yeah. So whenever, think in this way, that whenever you are going to give a handover to anyone, you are going to say that, okay, patient was admitted with these problems, and this is what I did for him. And when he came, he was not able to eat very much, or he was in a lot of pain. He was not able to move his hand at all. He was not able to write. But now, yeah, I have, with all my interventions, now patient is able to write a little bit. He is able to sign his name. He's in much control of the pain. He understands that what to do if he is getting pain, and he knows that how to use the call bell and alert us. He understands all his medications. He's able to do his activities of daily living without much of a problem. Yeah. Now, can you see that all of this that I have said, they are in present tense? So this is his current ability, that what can he do now? Because as a nurse, if you are taking a handover from someone, you would want to know that what is the patient now capable of doing, because that is going to decide how much care you need to give to a patient, or what are the things that you will need to assist the patient with. Understood? Yeah, any questions so far?
Ma'am, should we write this in points or should we write it in a paragraph?
My suggestion would be that write it in points. Yeah, because that makes it very easy for anyone to read, and it is simpler for you to write, and you don't have that much time that you start making like sentences. Remember, it is not an English exam. Yeah, so as long as you are able to give the information, it should be fine. You don't have to make sentences or paragraphs and all that sort of thing. So just write it in points. So like you have got around 6-7 lines over here. So 4 or 5 points will be more than enough, that what the patient can do at the moment. Yeah. Also, see, when we are writing, although I am referring it to like more of a, like patient is able to do that, patient is able to do that. But I'm saying this thing because I do not have the scenario at the moment. But remember, it is a care plan and the evaluation. You are writing for a particular patient. Okay, so please refer it to the give the referral of the patient's name. So you are going to say that Raj is able to do that, or he is able to do that, or Raj was taught about these things. Yeah, so use the patient's name, because it is a care plan for him, and it is the discharge or evaluation for him. Okay, so don't just anonymize it, use the patient's name. Okay, you don't have to all the time say Raj did this, Raj did that. You can use like he did this, or he will be doing this. You can do that one. Also, one more very important thing, which I don't know why, but it is a very common mistake which people keep on making, is to change the gender of the patient. You start with a he, and somewhere down the line it becomes she. Yeah, so please make sure that you know the gender of your patient, that whether it is a he or a she, and refer it accordingly. Okay, and also like that will be wrong to sort of write Mr. Raj. So either you write Mr. Palmer, which is the title as well as the surname, or you just say Raj. So using the first name and the title is wrong. So you shouldn't say that Mr. Raj is doing. So either you say Raj is doing that, or you say Mr. Palmer will be doing that. Also, just using the surname is also not right. So you can't say Palmer will be doing that, just using the surname. Okay. So best thing is that majority of the people do not mind at all you using the first name of the patient. So you don't need to write Mr., Miss, anything of that sort. Just use the first name of the patient.
Ma'am, Agu was telling that she doesn't have, she can't unmute herself.
How is she not able to unmute? If she has she
Chat.
sent a message?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
She's in chat.
Oh, she's in chat. Okay, let me see. Okay, so anyway, I will explain it to her. So Agu is asking that she did not understand that what did I explain in the nursing need of the patient. Yeah. So Agu, what I really meant was in the nursing need. So where it is identify the main nursing need addressed during the patients. So these are basically those things which you have already identified and looked at in the care plan. Yeah, remember when you wrote the care plan, that were the problems or those were the nursing needs which you had highlighted. That when you had said that, okay, Raj is at risk of aspiration because he is post-op, or Raj is at risk of pain as evidenced by the pain score of so-and-so, those are his problems. So the two problems or the two nursing need you already have from your care plan, but I was just suggesting that maybe you can write one or two other problems which you think can also be something which you could have written in your care plan. For example, like the activity intolerance, or you can say that he's getting more anxious, or you could have said that he's suffering with constipation because of the painkillers. So these were the other things which you can anticipate that this patient would be having. So if you are able to write two, definitely you will have to write, because those you have already written in your care plan. And if you can write two more, and in this one you don't have to elaborate much, you will have to only write the problem section, that Raj is suffering with pain as evidenced by the pain score of so and so. Okay, you don't have to write any other thing after that. It is you have to just highlight the problem or his need. What you did for that is coming in the next section. Yeah, please just show me a thumbs up if you have understood that. Okay, great. Okay, so we are coming back to back to where we were. So we have already done the current ability of the patient. So we have told that what the patient is able to do at the moment. So we have discussed all that thing. So now the next section is that when you have to document that patient's allergies and associated reaction. Again, this is very, very simple. It is already going to be there in your notes. All you have to do is just copy from there that patient is allergic to penicillin and he gets rash or anaphylactic reaction, or patient is allergic to NSAIDs and he gets gastric bleed because of that. Yeah. So it is again, very, very simple, straightforward thing. So you don't have to do much about that one. Now the last section of this one where it says list areas identified for health education. Now that is this, sorry. Yes,
Can I
Bonnie?
ask you one thing?
Yeah.
If they haven't written the allergic associated reaction, what we need to do? Sometimes
not
they will write only the allergic reaction, allergic, the medications or the food or things like that, isn't it? So they won't say that, what happens if they do.
So if it is not written in your notes, and if you do not have any information about that, then you just leave it.
Oh,
But ideally, see, when you are talking to the patient, now before you reach the evaluation stage, you had two chances where you have met the patient in the assessment and in the implementation. And in both of the places, you had to ask about the allergies.
okay.
And that is something that the information you should ask the patient that, okay, so what happens? So if someone is allergic to something, if it is not written in the notes, then you should ask that what happens. So you would have the knowledge of this thing because you had asked the patient in the assessment and in the implementation. So you would know, even if it is not documented over there.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So then we are coming to the last section, which says that list areas identified for health education. Now, this is a place which you will have to think a little bit. Yeah, because till now, you have written everything the information which you already had. Yeah, so everything was either you have gathered that information in assessment or in your care plan or from the implementation. Now, this is the section where you will have to think a little bit, because this is something that you will have to now give your own recommendations to either the patient or the person who you are referring them to. Okay, so if we are saying that we are discharging Raj, then what are the things that we want to tell him? Can you think of something, Shiny? Can you think that what will you tell Raj? Now you know that Raj was admitted with this carpal tunnel syndrome. He had surgery and now he's being discharged. So what are the advice that you'll give him?
He may be restricted being using his left hand. So we can use how to get involved with some sort of activities, how to use that, and some sort of exercises we can teach him in order to improve the mobility. And also we can see that he may be using the right hand prominently. So how to coordinate with the activities and the importance of drinking more water, because he may be taking the antibiotic and some sort of medications. So it's very important that he should have a lot of fluids. And also about the well-balanced diet. He's already diabetic, so some sort of food also he need to be restricted. So so he can have a healthy diet so that the healing process, it will be good. And some sort of minor exercises also we can teach so that he'll be able to recover very fast.
Excellent. So already you can see that it becomes so easy for you to fill that page. Yeah, you have told me so many things that they won't even fit in that page. Yeah, so in this section, I think how you can think about this section is that think what was his main problem and what did you do. So his main problem was carpal tunnel. You did the surgery. Now the surgery has happened. Patient is going home. Because there is a surgery, there is going to be a wound. Yeah. So if there is a wound, probably it has either the stitches or it has got a steri-strip or something which are there. So you are going to tell the patient how to look after the wound. because that is your first priority. You don't want the patient to ignore the wound or get the wound to be infected.
Signs
Yeah?
of infection.
So you are going to tell the patient that he need to look after the wound properly. Probably he will require to get the dressing changed in after 3 days. Yeah, and then you are going to be teaching him the signs suggestive of infection, and also you are going to let him know who to contact if he is feeling any signs of infection. He will also need to see the district nurse in maybe in 7 to 10 days time to get the stitches removed. Yeah, and then make sure that his wound stays healthy after that. Then, because we want good healing, we would advise him, as you have said, that okay, he needs to eat high protein diet and he needs to eat regularly, maintain hydration, because that is going to help with the healing process. Yeah. So then we are going to think about that, okay, now the wound has healed. Now what does he need to do? So you are going to tell him about the exercises that he can do while the process of healing, and also after the wound has healed properly. So you will need to teach him all the exercises to make his the power in his hand come back and the full usage of the hand come back, and also to make sure that in future he is not having any recurrence of a similar kind of a problem. Yeah, so you are going to teach him exercise. So when you are teaching anyone anything, you can always give them some written material about that one as well. Yeah, so that they can read through it and they can understand it better. Yeah, so you are going to be providing him with some written material. Then after that, you are going to think about that, okay, this you have spoken about the current sort of condition that he had, but I also know that he is diabetic. So now I'm going to educate him or advise him about the diabetes as well. Yeah, so you will tell him that, okay, that you need to just take care of your general health, make sure that you maintain your the diabetes under control, and continue eating healthy diet, and maintain your the blood sugar levels. And you are also going to give him advice about the compliance with the medication, that why, because probably now he will be on pain medication because of the surgery, that you want him to comply with the medication, take them regularly, do not miss them, also take them as instructed so that he get least amount of side effects, and also in future to make sure that he always takes his regular medications appropriately, so that he is not having any problems with his diabetes. Yeah, also he will need to probably go and see his GP in maybe 6 weeks or so time, just to have a check again that everything has healed fine and that he's not having any symptoms or any problems after the surgery. So if you take it in such a way that when you are advising the patient about any of these things, think that what is my immediate thing that I need to tell, and what are my long-term goals. Yeah. So if we take it in such a way that, say, for example, if the patient was discharged just with or you have seen a malnourishment patient and you are doing the referral. Yeah, if we take this as a referral sort of scenario, in the referral, you are talking to the dietitian. You are telling the dietitian that what are the things that you would want the education about this thing. So you can tell the patient or the dietitian that, okay, I have discussed with the patient about the importance of the diet chart, the importance of maintaining a complete diet or a well-nourished diet. So you are going to talk about them. You have given the patient literature about all the food or a healthy and a balanced diet, what all can be included in as proteins, as the fruits and veg, or as carbohydrates, all those things that you have given him the advice about that. You have already made a weight chart so that he can keep on continuously weighing himself every week. Yeah, and you have also advised patient to do some exercise, so that with exercise he's utilizing his energy, he will feel more hungry and he will start eating more, and his muscle strength is going to come back. Also, because of all these things, his bowel pattern is going to get better and he will feel much better in himself. Yeah, maybe you can also suggest that because of the patient's mobility and inability to prepare food, you have already been in touch with Meals on Wheels, and you have given that option to the patient as well, so that he can get ready-made meals. And then you will ask the dietitian that, okay, it would be really beneficial if the patient can be looked and his diet can be assessed and recommendations be made that what can he do to change the diet. Also, it might be a good idea to set some targets and goals for the patients to achieve, that how can he improve on his weight and hydration and what should be his goals. Yeah. And they can also look into the patient's diabetes, and his diet is like diabetic appropriate. So you can give a little bit of a recommendations as well, that these are the things that you would ideally want the physiotherapist, the dietitian to do as well. So have you understood that what we are trying to tell over here? Agu, do you want to ask anything? Anyone has any question in this one? Because see, this is the section. Other sections are pretty straightforward, simple. There isn't much that you need to think about, because those are the things which you have already done. It is majority of the things are you have to just copy from your previous notes. But this is the section where you will actually have to think about. So did you understand that what I was trying to tell you and how you can use your thinking plan? You have to just write 3 or 4 points in this one. But if you think in such a way that what are the things which I need to tell him about the immediate problem? What are the things which I have to tell him about his general, overall and long-term goals? If you think in this term, it will be very easy for you to come up with 2 or 3 sentences. Yeah. So it won't become like a difficult task that, okay, what do I write in this one? Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, great. So now we come to the last couple of things, date and time of the transfer. So if it is a transfer letter that you are writing, although in your notes or in your scenario, they would have given that patient will be transferred tomorrow. Yeah, so they would write that when the patient is going to be transferred. So over here, you will have to write that date and time which have been given to you when the patient is going to be transferred. Okay, so this is not today's date. This is the date. It is possible that patient is going to be transferred today in the evening. It is possible, but it has to be the date which have been a date and time which have been given to you, that when the patient is actually going to be transferred. So next section is, of course, you have to write your name, your signature, and the date. Now that is the date that you are going to be using as today's date. Have you understood that? So is there anything in the care plan where you think it is a little bit confusing, or you want me to tell or repeat anything in the care plan? Oh, sorry, in the evaluation. Everyone understood this? Okay, so that's great then. So if everyone have understood this one, now evaluation also has one different type of evaluation, which is the end of life evaluation, that we can do once you are coming for face-to-face training. Now that is also not much difference in that one. It is the principle still stays the same, but instead of outline patient current ability, it is going to be asking about the patient's current, like the spiritual and family needs and things. So you will have to think about social, spiritual, family needs. So you will have to think about them and write over here. And about the list for health education, I think that you will have to write more about that how can, what are the problems that you are anticipating that he is going to have, and how can you make the patient more comfortable. So these are the only 2 sections which are slightly different, but that we can discuss when you are coming for the face-to-face training. Okay, so if we are all happy with this one, then let's move on to the fluid balance. Okay. So with this section, we have completed your API. So you should, when you come for the face-to-face, you should be able to very well do the assessment. You'll know how to write a care plan. You know how to read a chart or a medication chart and do the implementation. And you should know how to write a evaluation or a discharge or a transfer letter or a referral. Okay. Now those are the things that we will be doing on a regular basis every day. So like a care plan, you will be writing every day. Evaluation, you will be writing every day. So as part of homework, you will be doing those every day. So by the end of your face-to-face training, you will be pretty much sorted for this thing. Okay. Fine then. So I'm stopping my share screen and let me just bring up the fluid balance chart. I hope you guys have found these sessions helpful.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So that at least because see, idea is this that we want you, when you come over here for your face-to-face training, that you are not spending time in knowing what we can teach you just online or something, that you can just at least the theory part, so that you can have the maximum time for your skills. Because over here, although we are going to be discussing nasogastric and the VIP and the Braden's chart, and I'll try and sort of see if I can demonstrate as well those things to you, but still skills are something that you will have to do more hands-on. So it would be good if you have the maximum time for them. Okay, now I think that if all of you can, because I can't share two things in the same time, if all of you can open the scenario which I have given for the fluid balance, which is the candidate briefing 1, Richard Brake, if you can open that in your phones, so then at least you know the question, what is the question, and I can just bring up or share the fluid balance chart, and then we can see that how we are going to be completing it. Can you see the fluid balance chart?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so everyone understand what exactly we mean by fluid balance? What are the principles? Why do we need to do that? So who is going to tell me this thing? Roshni, do you want to tell me that why do we do the fluid, or why do we have to write a fluid balance chart, and what are we expecting out of it?
First of all, we are maintaining the fluid electrolyte balance by mentioning the input and output of the patient, so that we can make sure that the patient is taking this much amount of food or fluid, and the output is coming as balanced as the same. So if the patient or the person is having any kind of imbalance, we can make sure that it can be balanced.
Yeah.
So yeah, if the patient is having any kind of fluid restrictions, we have to give the fluids accordingly, and the output we have to check it. It may be hourly basis. We are checking.
Okay, that's good.
So all kind of fluids or food the patient is taking, we have to mention it in the chart.
Yeah. So that is what our aim is basically when we are doing input output chart. So we are trying to see that what is the hydration level of the patient, and what whether the patient is having fluid, they are in the positive fluid balance or in a negative fluid balance. In some situation, it is we might have to restrict the patient's fluid intake because already they are in the fluid overload, or they are having breathing problems and all those kind of things, that we want to restrict the fluid. So unless we have some tool to measure that what have been the intake and what has been the output, it will be difficult for us to know that how to maintain that balance in the intake and output. So your fluid chart, the input output chart, is the one that tells you that what has happened from the fluid point of view in the last 24 hours. And it is done on the 24 hours cycle. and it is updated on an hourly basis. Okay, so all of us have understood that one. Now, if we look at the fluid balance chart, yeah, so you will see that it has, on one side, it has the output, and on one side it has the input. Yeah, so it is going to be like the and for both, like if you look at the input sort of thing. Now, input, it is telling that how can the input be. So there are only few ways that how you can take the food. So it can be an oral route, it can be an enteral route, it can be a parenteral route that you can take. Yeah. So these are the three ways that you can actually have any input. So these are the three ways that they have given, and you should be able to figure, you will need to put it wherever we are going to be putting these things, and in whichever section we are going to be putting our input. So we will have to put in that particular section, whether that was from the enteral route, whether from oral route, or whether it was from the parenteral route that we have done. Okay, understood that? So then in the output side, if you are looking, now output again, either it could be in the form of urine, it could be in the form of gastric losses, it could be like maybe a vomiting or something, it could be bowels, that a patient has opened the bowels, and then there are some drains. So it is possible patient is having a chest drain or an abdominal sort of drain and all those things. So these are the ways where we can, where the output goes out from. So depending upon this one, depending upon our history, we are going to be writing that whether it is what the output have been of the patient. Okay. So in the end, or while we are going, so we will have to do the total. So when we are adding it up, we are going to add in two ways. So we are going to add that in what has been the total amount of fluid input or output in that particular hour, and then that what have been the total amount or total input till then. So the total input till then is going to add up all the hours till then. So for example, if you have started this at 8 o'clock, yeah, at 9 o'clock section or at 8 o'clock, so if I'm added that oral was 100, parenteral was 100, so my total for that hour, that at 8 o'clock becomes 200. Yeah, but my total input for that hour is also 200 because I have just started that. But if I go at 9 o'clock and I add 200 again, so between 8 and 9, the total hourly input was 200, but the total input becomes 200 plus 200, which is going to become 400. Okay, same is with the output as well. So you are going to do the output per hour and total output till that hour. So this way, when you are going to go when you are going to be completing it, by the end, you should have the total input and output of the 24 hours, because you are keep on adding that as you are going along every hour. Then for the total balance, you are going to take the total input minus total output, and you are going to get a balance. Now the balance can either be a positive balance or a negative balance. A positive balance will be the balance where the patient's input is more and output is less. So if your figure comes in positive, then that is a positive balance. But if your figure comes in negative, like say for example, the input was 1000, but the output was 1200. So 1000 minus 1200, you are going to get minus 200. So your input is in negative. So you have, or your fluid balance is in negative. So your output has been more than what you have taken in. Okay. So that is something that you will have to figure out, that whether what is the total input and output, and then what is the total balance. And then you will have to obviously circle whether it was a negative or a positive balance. And the other things that you are going to write your name and your signature and all that. So you will have to complete that one. Okay. So it is again a fairly simple sort of procedure. It is a very easy skill to have. it is going to be, it is not like it is a silent station. So you will be given 3 sheets of paper, that just in case that you have made mistake in your one sheet, then you can start again on the second sheet or the third sheet. Yeah. So you will be given 3 sheets, and it is going to, you will be given 15 minutes to complete this sheet. It is, and in the end, the examiner will ask you that which is the sheet that you want to submit. So you can choose that which is your best sheet and which is the final sheet, and you can give just that one to be checked. The others are not going to be marked. Okay. And usually it is, you will be given a calculator as well, so that if you have to add things, that you are going to be able to calculate. And you will also be given a scale, so that you can write everything in the correct column using a scale, so that you are not by mistake writing something on the other sort of hour rather than at the same hour. Okay, so you will be provided with all of the material. So it is not going to be a difficult station at all. Yeah. Usually the fluid balance, it can, or the question can come either in a chart form or a table form, or it can come in a like a history form. Majority of the time, although, it comes in a table form. So like that, the one that we are going to be discussing. So if it is in a table form, it becomes even more simpler and easy for you to calculate it. Again, the calculations are not difficult. They are very simple calculations. It is just that you will have to make sure that you do it with a full focus, that you should not add or subtract in a wrong manner. And also there are few principles or few things that you need to remember, that how you are going to be filling that chart. Okay. So now if we are going to be looking at this one. So let us go in this one, the question. So have you taken out the question? Yeah, so the question is that Richard, let me also take out the question. So the question is that if we see that it is, patient's name is Richard Bray. Richard is in AMU. He requires strict fluid balance monitoring. Please input the following data into the fluid balance chart, ensuring that you calculate the daily balance and note it is positive or negative balance. This is a silent station. You must have 15 minutes to complete the task, and you may use calculator. Okay, so simple sort of thing. So now if we take look at the chart which is there, so you will see at 8 o'clock that the patient is having a cup of tea. So it is an oral route that the patient is having a cup of tea. So over here, we will write 800. Yeah. So it was an oral route that patient had it. Oh, sorry, not 800. 150. Patient had 150 ml of the fluid. Yeah. Then the next sort of thing, if you will see that at 1100. So in this one, I have written 150 in front, like if you see against 8 o'clock, because when you are taking a cup of tea, it is something that you will just take in the next 5 minutes or 2 minutes sort of thing. It is not something that you are going to take a long time. But when you are giving like fluids or an infusion or something of that sort, that you will know is over an hour that you are going to give. So if I'm saying that I have started a fluid at 8 o'clock, yeah, and it is something to be given 1 liter to be given over the 8-hour period, then you know that you will need to divide it into 8, because it is over the 8 hours that you are going to give. So there is going to be an hourly rate for that one. But I'm not going to add that at 8 o'clock, because 8 o'clock I have started it. So I will write it at 9 o'clock, because it is between 8 to 9 o'clock, that hour finishes at that time. Okay, so don't get confused in this one, that because it is started at 8 o'clock that you are going to add at 8 o'clock. So anything which is going over the hour, you are going to write it when the hour finishes. But anything that you are going to take on an immediate basis, you can write against that hour. Yeah. So I have written the cup of tea, which the patient has already taken. Now, if I see at 11 o'clock, the patient had a beaker of water, 200 ml. So again, water is something that patient can just drink. So I can write against the 11, the 200 over here, that patient has taken that one. Yeah. Then if I come, that patient had a bowl of soup. So these are all the oral intake that I'm writing. So patient had a bowl of soup at 1300 hours, which is again 200 ml. So at 1300 hours, I can write 200 ml again. Then he also had a cup of tea at 1300 hours. So he had a bowl of soup plus he had a cup of tea, which we know is 150 ml. So it is 200 plus 150. So for this hour, actually, it is going to be 350. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. At 1500 hours, you can see that he had a cup of coffee as well. So at 1500 hour, if I say cup of coffee, which was again 150. At 1800, he had a cup of tea, so which was 150. And at 2200, he had a cup of hot chocolate, which was 150. So that is 2200 hours. So that is 150. So these are all of his oral sort of things that he have had. So I know that I have written them according to the time. And these are all of the oral things that he had. Now, if I'm going to be looking at his parenteral fluid input, now if I can see that he was started on normal saline, which is 1 liter, to be given in, you can say it is over 8 hours it has been given. Yeah, it was to be started at 10 o'clock and finish at 1800 hour. So it is over 8 hours that I'm giving 1 liter of fluid. So if I divide that, yeah, I'm going to get 125. Yeah. So like if I divide 1000, so it is going to actually come in decimals. Divided by 8, it actually I'm going to get 125. So that is simple. So I know that it is 125. So I have to write 8 hours of 125. And it was started at 10. So my first hour is going to be at 11. Understood? So I'm going to write 125 and I'm going to write 8 125s. 8 time I'm going to write. So I know that it is going to finish at 6 o'clock. Yeah. Everyone understood that? Simple till now? Yeah.
Yes,
So now
yes.
I know that I have, these are my input, that the information, according to my information, these are my only inputs which I have. Yeah, there is no other input that which is written over there. So I can actually complete this. So I know that for this hour, 150 is my total, and my total input is also 150. For the next hour as well, there is nothing over here. So then I will have to add these ones. So 200 plus 125 will become 325, and 325 plus 150 is going to become 475, because this is the total input till now. Yeah. And then I'm going to be, so for this hour, it is again 125. So 125 plus 475 is going to become 600. Yeah. Then in the next one, it is this thing is 475, 350 plus 125 becomes 475, and 600 plus 475 is going to become 1075. Then in this one, 125, 1075 plus 125 is going to become 1200. Then in the next one, I have 150 plus 125, which is going to become 275. And 1200 plus 275 will become 1475. Yeah, are you getting it? Then my next one is 125. So add it to it, it will become 1600. Again 125, and it will become 1725. And then this one is going to be 275. And I'm going to add this one, so it will become 2000. And then there is 150 over here, so it will become 2150. So my total input, if you will see, is 2150 in the 24 hours, or the information that I have till now. Everyone understood it till here? Now I'm going to go and look at my output. So in my question, if I see the output, so we are going to be completing the output in the same manner. So I know that it says that urine output at 8 o'clock was 180 ml. So I can put 180 ml. The urine, again, he urinated at 1300 hours, which is 260. So 1300 is 260. Then at 1800 was 175. At 1800 is 175. Then at 2300 it is 150. And at 5 o'clock in the morning it was 280. So I'll come at 5 o'clock in the morning at 280. Yeah. Now if I see gastric losses, they have not said anything. Bowels, twice the patient has opened, one at 8 o'clock, which was 325, and again at 2300, which was 200. 2300 hours.
Ma'am, bowels was at 325. Okay. Correct, ma'am.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so 325 and 200 was the bowels. Yeah. So in actually in gastric losses, if you will see that vomiting is in the next section that they have given. So he vomited at 10 o'clock, which was 330. So at 10 o'clock he vomited 330, it was measured. And then he vomited again at 2000, 260. At 2000, if you'll see, as 260. Yeah. And then there is a wound drainage, which was again emptied at 1200 hours, which was 200. So at 1200 hours, there was a wound drainage, so 200. So that is my all of the output. Now in this all of the output, if you will see, sometime over here, anyway, they have given that the bowels, when patient opened, the bowels were measured. But sometimes the bowels in the exam, you might find a situation where bowels are, they have just said that the bowels were opened, but you are not given any measurement for that. So if you are not given any measurement for that, then you are only going to tick the section. So say, for example, if they had said that bowels were open at 8 o'clock in the morning, but there was no measurement which was given, then you are going to put a tick mark in front of 8 o'clock in the morning, so that you have acknowledged that the bowels were opened. Not necessary that you have to actually say that how much was it, but you have acknowledged that the bowels were opened. Yeah. So in the same way, we are going to be adding it over here. So if I do it quickly, okay, so I know in the first sort of thing, my total is 505 and total is also going to be 505. And second hour, there is nothing. So this one is going to be 330, and 330 added to 505 is going to be 835. Then over here is 200. So it is going to be 1035. Then it is 260, and it is going to be 1295. 95, and then we are going to come over here 175 and 175 added to that, so it will become 1470. Then 260 over here, and 260 added to this one is going to become 1730. Then it is going to be 350, and 1730 added to 350 is going to be 2080. And then over here it is 280, and I add 280 over here, so 2360. So in this one, if you will see that my input was 2150 and the output is 2360. So the total balance, if I look, that I am doing 2150 minus 2360, which is going to be minus 210. Got it? Yeah. So I am going to be ticking it over here that it is a negative balance which I have got. So I can mark it over here that I have got a negative balance. Has everyone understood that?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone has any question in this? As you can see, it is pretty straightforward. It is very simple. All you have to do is that diligently see that you have noted down all of the sections where there was input and all the sections where there was output, and you have marked them properly and calculated, added them properly as well. Any queries or any question till now? Agu, have you understood that? Please show me a thumbs up if you have understood so far.
Ma'am, I have a question, ma'am.
Okay.
Whether we want to mention the units here, ml.
Not in every sort of thing you don't have to. In every entry you don't have to. In the end you can say that, okay, over here you can say ml, 200 minus 210 ml.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So for every entry, you don't have to keep on writing ml, ml, ml. We know that it is in mls. Anything else? Okay. So there is one more thing in this one. Sometime your if we are saying the fluid, yeah, say it is possible that the parenteral fluid as well, that it can be given in again in different ways. Sometime it is possible that they will say that, okay, a patient is being infused an antibiotic. So the antibiotic, 100 ml of antibiotic is being given. And that might be that, okay, over 1 hour you have to give just 100 ml. So you can write that in that 1 hour, that 100 ml. Sometime it is also possible that when you are dividing the things, yeah, say again, for example, if we were giving it over 9 hours, the same thing, not over the 8 hours. So if we were giving 1000 over 9 hours, then you are going to get 111.111. Yeah, so you can get it in points. Now, if you get anything in points, yeah, please, you don't have to write the point over here. Okay, rather than writing 111.1, you can just write 111. Remember that you can never ever give the complete 1000 to the patient, because there will be something which is always going to be left in the tubing as well. Yeah, so don't worry if your balance or if your calculation is coming maybe 3-4 ml, it is not coming as entirely completed. 3-4 ml of less if you are giving, it's fine. Yeah, because that is something that you will expect is anyway going to be left in the tubing. But it cannot be that, say, for example, if you are getting your point is coming as 80, like say 111.7, then do not round it off to the next, do not make it 112. Because if you keep on adding 112, you will go more than 1000 ml. And you only have 1000, so you can never ever give more than 1000, isn't it? Yeah. So don't get tempted to add that decimal point. It is majority of the people, they understand. And if you have to, or if you are trying to make it absolutely correct, and if you have to write it, then you can write it, but write the exact point that you are getting so that you don't go over 1000. Okay. Everyone understood that one? Okay. There is one more thing which I wanted to tell you. Completely gone out of my mind. Okay, but anyway, it will come back. Is there anything else that you guys think is a problem? Okay, I remembered what I was trying to tell you. So although in the exam, see, normally they don't do it like that and they don't make your life difficult, but it is possible in real life that when you are starting a infusion, say for example, if you are starting an infusion, or even if anyone is drinking something, yeah, it is not possible that you are going to always start at the round of hour. Yeah, it is not possible that you are always going to drink a cup of tea at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. It is possible that you drank a cup of tea at 8:15. And it is also possible that your fluid was started at 10:30 rather than 10 o'clock. Yeah. So if you are in such a situation, then I think that we need to make sure that, say, for example, if the patient had a cup of tea at 8:15, then you can add that at 9 o'clock hour, because we are calculating any fluid intake from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock in 9 o'clock hour. Yeah, because you can't write it at 8 o'clock, because by that time patient had not had that drink. He had it at 8:15. But you can add it at 9 o'clock because he has had it between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Did you understand that point? Has everyone understood it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Same thing is with the fluid as well. That, say for example, we have started the fluid at 10:30. Yeah. So it is, if we have started it at, or say for example, 11:30. So if we have started it at 11:30, it is going to finish at 8:30 or 7:30. It is going to finish. Yeah. So that half an hour thing which is there, what you can do is that you can further divide, like say in hour 125 is going, then in half an hour you can further divide it. Yeah, so in half an hour it will be like 62.5 that you are getting. So you can add a 62.5 in that particular hour and 62.5 in the other hour that you can add. Did you understand this point? Shiny, did you understand that? No? Say
So
for
I'm example, yeah, I understood your point. Then why are we adding the T in the next column? That's what I was thinking.
Because see, half an hour, 8 hours are going to finish. If I start something at 10:30 and I say that it is going to run at
1 hour.
8 hours. So if half an hour is over here, half an hour will be at the end, towards the end as well, isn't it? Yeah. 8 hours are going to be, I started at 10:30. So my first hour is going to be 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30.
I understood.
Yeah? Yeah. So the half an hour I'm going to add it in this section, so that 1 hour I have divided into two halves. One in the beginning, one in the end I have added.
Okay, ma'am.
Understood?
Yeah.
Has everyone understood this point? Okay, so I think that this is all about the fluid balance chart. So there isn't, as I said, that it is fairly simple and easy. There isn't much that like you don't have to be much of a mathematician to do this one. All you have to make sure is that you diligently read it and write in the correct column, and then you can just do the adding or totaling of all of the things. Then minus the output from input, and you are going to get your balance and decide whether it is a positive balance or a negative balance. Okay, any questions in this one? Great. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to share some more fluid balance scenarios with you so that you can practice them out. Yeah, and also the evaluation, I'm going to send you some evaluation scenarios. I think that already when I had shared the care plan, there was an evaluation scenario as well on that one. So you can take that and you can write the evaluation for those particular patients as well. Yeah, as a homework. Okay, so till now, any question in any of the stations from API till fluid balance? Okay, that's good. So I take it that you all have understood everything. Yeah, so if anyone does not ask question, there can be only two reasons. Either you have understood everything or you have not understood anything at all. So I'll take it that you guys have understood everything. Okay, so that's fine.
Hello,
So
ma'am. Hi, ma'am.
Yes.
Hi, ma'am. I'm having a doubt. Ma'am, if in assessment station, if the patient is wearing some kind of hearing aids, so what we have to do, like if we have to remove it priorly or?
You can ask the patient that is it okay if you can remove it? Yeah, so that I can just check the temperature and then you can wear it again.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Okay, fine then, guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much for today. And I'll share all those things, and I'll also try and figure out the uniform issue, and I'll let you know how we are going to go ahead. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Then you take care. And tomorrow we are going to do the next session then. Okay? Okay, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.